Hi, welcome back to Kick and Crochet. Today I'm going to show you this simple free pattern to make this little Christmas present ornament. So this is made with, you could use any yarn you want, any size 4 yarn. I'm using cotton, lily, sugar and cream, whatever color these are, emerald, and wine. So that's what I'm doing, but of course you are welcome to use whatever colors you'd like. And I'm also using a size H crochet hook. This one happens to be an Odyssey hook from Furls Crochet, which I love. It is my favorite hook. If you're interested in these, there's a link for those in the description as well. So to make this, we're going to need to make a bunch of these squares. So I need 4 of this kind and 2 of this kind. So I made 3 and 1, and I'm going to show you how to make these, but you're going to need 4 of this kind and 1 of that kind. Okay, so to make the side squares, start with your green or whatever color you want, and we're going to chain 7, 1, 2, maybe 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then single crochet in the second and across. So that 7th one doesn't count as a stitch. We're doing 6 single crochet. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then I'm going to chain 1 and turn. My chain does not count as my first stitch. Then I will single crochet across again. So these squares, you'll make 4 of these, and this is going to be the sides of your box. And on my last single crochet here in the row, I'm going to switch to my other color. So I'm going to stop here and pull my next color through to finish that stitch. Now I'll chain 1 and turn, and I'm just going to single crochet a back across with this color. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then I'll chain 1, turn, and single crochet back across. And on this last single crochet, I'm going to switch back to my green. Now, my ends are all going to be hidden inside the box, so I don't care if I've got these yarns floating on the back. That's okay. So I'm going to pull my green through, and now I'm going to do 2 more rows with green. And when I finish this, I'm not actually going to weave in any of my ends. I'm going to use some of them maybe to sew the box together, and the other ones I'm just going to hide inside the box. So you do not need to weave in your ends. Yay, because I hate weaving in ends. Okay. However, I do like to tie them together sometimes, just to make sure that they're not going to come unwoven. Since I'm not weaving them in, I just make sure the knots end up on the back so that they will be inside my box. Okay, so that is my side of my box, and again you need to make 4 of these, so I have 4 sides of my box. And now for the top and the bottom, you're going to do this. So this is supposed to be like you have a ribbon wrapped around your box, right? And it crosses on the bottom and it crosses on the top. And notice the other side of this has all these weird floats and stuff because I don't care. It's going to be inside my box. Just make sure that they all end up on one side and not the other. Otherwise it will look like crazy. Okay. So again, I'm going to start with my green. I'm going to chain 1, and now I'm actually going to pull through with my red or my burgundy, and then do one more with this color, and now I'm going to pull back through with my green. So it's a little different because I want 2 green, 2 burgundy, and then 2 green again. Okay. So it's a little wonky, but I mean, I'm not really a perfectionist when it comes to crochet. I just need 2 and 2. So I need to do one more for my turn, and now I'm going to do 2 single crochets. With green. On the second one, I'm going to switch to purple, and again I'm just going to use this purple that's already attached to my project. I'm just going to make sure that it always floats on the back of my square. So this green needs to be on the back. And I'll do 2 single crochets with the purple or the red, and then I'll switch back to my green. Again, I'm just using the green that is already attached to my project, and I'll pull it through and make sure that this one is on the back, not the front, because you don't want it to show on the front. And then I'll do 2 more single crochet with green. Whew. Alright, the beginning of this is definitely the hardest part. So once you have it set up, and it just kind of pulls over a little bit, that's okay. Now I'm going to chain 1 to turn, and I'll do 2 single crochets with green. 1, 2. On the second one, I'm going to pull my green over here so that it stays on this side, because you want all the extra strings on the same side. And I'm going to pull through with my purple red. Now I'll do 2 single crochets with the red. And here I'm going to pull this over and switch to my green. I'll do 2 with green. On this last one, I'm going to switch back to purple. So there's a whole bunch of color switching here just for this square. Now I'll chain 1, and this whole row is going to be purple. Yay! 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then the next row is also purple. And on the last stitch, I'm going to switch back to my green. Chain 1 to turn, and then the first 2 stitches, I forgot to make sure my purple was on the back, because we don't want it to show on the front. So we're going to make sure it's on the back where all the other strands are, and pull through with our green. Okay, chain 1, turn. We'll do 2 green, and on the second one we're going to switch to purple. We'll do 2 purple. On the second purple, we'll switch back to green. We'll do 2 green. So we're just making a little plus with our purple and green. Okay, and last row, chain 1 and turn. Do 2 green. On the second green, we're going to switch to purple, keeping the green on the back side so that it's on the same side as these color changes. We want all of those hidden inside our box. Now 2 purple, and I'm going to switch back to green, and then finish the row with green. So this one is a little more complicated, it's a little more involved, but I have every confidence that you can do it. Ooh, I got my ends all tangled. So see how I kept, and mine's a little wonky, I pulled it a little tight there. See how I kept all of the spare threads all on one side of the work. That's really important because you don't want this to show on the outside of your box, right? So you need to make 2 of these, one for the top and one for the bottom. And then we will assemble our box. You also need some stuffing. You can use polyester fiberfill, which is what I have, or you could even use yarn scraps or fabric scraps or whatever you want. Or you even don't really need anything because the fabric is stiff enough that it maintains its shape pretty well. If you don't have any filling, that will be okay. Okay, so you can decide which of these you want to be the top or the bottom. It doesn't really matter which one you pick. And then all 4 of the sides are going to end up getting attached together straight up and down. Again, I'm not weaving in any of the ends because I'm just going to hide them inside the box or use them to sew it together. So I'm going to start by sewing together 2 of my sides. It doesn't really matter which ones. You can, if you have a preference for which side's the outside, you can decide that. I don't really care, so I'm using one of my ends to sew them together. I'm just going to go through and sew it together on each stitch. I kind of like how it looks with like a little bit of a poofing out on the edge, so I'm going around the post of each stitch when I sew it so that it leaves a little bit more on the corners of my box. Now, if you want, you can continue on with the same thread and just start weaving in, weaving on the bottom, but I'm gonna leave this one for now. And I also will tend to sew these together just to make sure, again, that it doesn't come unsewn. But if you aren't worried about that. I mean, it's going to be hanging on a tree, so odds of it coming unsewn are pretty slim. It's not like a kid's going to be playing with it. I mean, maybe they will be. I guess my kids play with my Christmas tree plenty. So, you never know. Okay, so now I'm just going to take another one of these. Whichever way I want to make it, it doesn't really matter. I don't know, go this way. Got one more side to sew on, and then I'll need to do the top and the bottom. The top and the bottom are a little tricky to sew, and if you are really worried about lining up the colors when you sew it, then it's going to be way more annoying. I am less worried about that, so I just sewed the whole edges with green on the top and the bottom just to make it easier for myself. But if you are really concerned about making it look just right, then you can sew the purple parts with purple and the green parts with green, and that will make it look a little bit better, but it's just more work than I want to do. So okay, so now I still need to sew one more edge of our box. Now I'm not sure if I left a tail long enough to sew my top and my bottom on, so I will maybe just grab a new thread to do that so that I don't have to use more than one piece. If I was thinking about it, I would have left a really long thread to sew. But sometimes you just don't think about it. Alright, so now I have sides of my box, and all of these strings I'm just gonna shove in my box. I don't care about them, they're just gonna hide inside, they'll just be part of my stuffing. See? Yay for not weaving in ends. Okay, so now we need to attach our top and our bottom. So I'm just gonna take another length of yarn because I'm not sure if I left a long enough tail to do the whole side. Hold on a second. I'll start this from the inside. I'm actually going to tie this to this, just so I don't have to secure it. If you can't tell, I'm kind of lazy when it comes to tying stuff. I really just hate sewing. And all of its variants, like weaving in ends. It's not my favorite thing. Okay. So now when you come to the purple, I kind of try and hide it behind a little bit, so I'll go through this back one instead of the top one, and you'll still see a little bit of the green when I sew it, but it won't show as much. So I'll kind of go under in here, and then back under in here. Maybe. And so you can see that you can kind of see the green through a little bit, but it hides it pretty well when I do that. And that makes it so that I don't have to switch thread colors to sew it, because you know how much I love sewing. Which is not at all. And keep in mind that your very top is going to be covered with a bow, which we'll get to here in a minute. And as I go, I'm going to tuck in all these ends because I don't want them out in the ends. Okay. So I'm just going all the way around the edges, sewing the top onto my present. it's super cute that my 3-year-old knows the word crochet. He saw my little ornament sitting on the piano, and he said, "Mommy, you crocheted a present." And I thought it was super cute. And then he wanted to play with it. I said, "John, you have to wait until I'm done." So he'll be glad when I get done with this, and then he can play with them. So that one, my green's showing because I got my float on the top, but I don't care. Sorry, I just totally hit my light and camera. Alright, one more side. And I don't need to worry about stuffing yet because I still have one more side to sew on. When I do the other side, I will stop pretty soon and do stuffing. Okay, and then I'm not even gonna tie this. I'm just gonna stuff it down there and let it hide inside. Okay, so there's my bottom. Not the best sewing job I've ever done, but I'm not worried about it. Okay, I'm gonna stuff all these ends in my box. And those are stuffed in so well, I'm not even gonna have to add that much filling. I'm gonna have to add a little bit. And then I need another length of yarn for sewing my top on. Alright. So again, I'm going to start in a corner. Doesn't really matter where. I'm going to start somewhere that I can sew this on the edge because I don't want to have to weave in the end or sew on the end because I'm lazy. Except doing an actual knot that functions would be better. I'll tuck those ends in. And now I've got this attached to my box. All my ends going in my box. Okay. I'm just going to do the same thing. I'm going to sew this box on. Trying to hide when I need to go behind the purple color, but I'm not going to stress about it too much. If a little bit of green shows through the crack, that's okay with me. I'm going to add a little bit of filling just to give it a little more shape. And I wouldn't overstuff it because then it'll pudge out and look more like a ball than a square. Okay, I think that's pretty good. Then I'll finish sewing this top side together. And then we need to get a bow and a loop to hang it with. So we're almost done, we're on the home stretch. So I've got my box finished. Now I need to do the ribbon and the hanging string. So you can either do a foundation single crochet or a chain and then single crochet back along it. And how long you make it is really up to you. I would recommend no less than 50 stitches or you're not going to have room to tie the bow. So this one I made 70 stitches long, 70 single crochets. So I'm just going to tie a bow like this. I'm going to make 2 loops, one over the other, and through the hole, which is not how I would make like a regular bow if I was tying my shoes or something. And then you just gotta kind of fiddle with it until it looks how you want it to look. I've got a small ornament, so I want small loops relatively. I think that'll work okay. And then single crochet ropes tend to twist a little bit, and you can kind of help them get a little curly by twisting them up. Just go the same way they're already starting to twist. So this one I made a little bit longer than the first one I made. And I don't know that I really like it this long, but it works. Okay, so now it doesn't really matter which side I attach it to. I figure out my spot, and now I'm going to cut, except I forgot my scissors, cut another length of string. I've got my tapestry needle. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go underneath the knot here, one direction, and then I'm going to go through kind of like the whole part of that X. And then I'm going to take the other side and thread it onto my needle, maybe. And I'm just going to go through this the opposite direction. And then snug that up. And I'm going to let this work double duty and also be my hanging string. So now I'm going to tie a knot up here. Now, of course, you could sew the bow on and then tie a hanging string, but I chose not to. So there it is. You've got a little Christmas present, Christmas ornament, little hangy ribbons. Alright, I hope you like this little bitty free pattern, get you in the holiday spirit. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I've got more goodies coming your way. Happy crocheting.